Poetry is the highest of the arts for me. I don't believe it's music. Music is a one-way communication. It is the communication of the sounds, of the symphonies, of the composer to a very passive audience. You can never say anything back. Schopenhauer, the philosopher, would disagree with me. He thought that was the voice of the numinous itself. The inhuman universe found voice in music and spoke to people. I can't disagree with that. Some of the greatest moments of realisation in my life have been accompanied or facilitated through the musical experience. But poetry's a two-way communication, because literature's a two-way communication. I'm expecting someone to read my work, and they will react because they've read my work. Poetry, because it's the ultimate way of using words with the utmost skill, with the utmost precision, with the greatest possible beauty. Voracious reader. I don't know why. If I look back now, it's very difficult to work out why. It's quite mysterious to work out why I was doing that at that particular time. But I was. It was nearly an obsession. I went to round off my reading of Shakespeare. I knew sort of I was moving on. I could feel it somewhere within me. But I got completely hooked by this astonishing play. Many scholars think it's Shakespeare's last play. Certainly if there was any other writing after that, it's cursory, or it's not as thoughtful, or it doesn't address the issues, the fundamental issues that The Tempest does. It's a defence of free thinking. It's a defence of his strange and gifted friend Dr. Jonathan Dee, in my opinion. It's a defence of the Elizabethan political project. It's a defence of the English Renaissance. It's a defence of learning. It's a defence of the human spirit and the human mind. And I still think it's probably one of the most powerful defences of those things I've ever come across, which is why I remain obsessed with that play. The alter ego I discovered in its reading, or at least partly discovered in its reading, for me spoke volumes by what he didn't say. And I still think that that play speaks volumes by what it's implying as opposed to overtly stating.
Is that Caliban?
Caliban. He's an incredibly interesting character. The drunken sailors call him Mooncalf. He's short and he's ugly and he's angry and he's surly, and he will do anything to rid himself of Prospero. Prospero is a pure Renaissance magus. By the power of his reason, by the power of his mind, he's gained magical abilities. And Caliban hates him. Caliban is the son of intuitions. He's the bastard of imagination. And he knows those things are valuable and they're underrated and repressed. Caliban is the uneasy slave of Prospero. And Caliban won't put up with it forever. Shakespeare admits this by sort of alluding to the fact that the magical island, which is theatre of course, the magical island actually does belong to Caliban. Caliban is the owner of theatre, not Prospero. Mm-hmm. And therefore Caliban represents again a new potential, a new boundary, a new beginning. Caliban, the dark but not damned, who was a shadow within his own twilight, had waited 11 years in the town of Farum for his caravan that was to return and bear him back to the primeval forests of his birth. And in the 11th year, on the 31st evening of October,
the month of spirits. He climbed the high hill outside the town walls and looked towards the icy distance, and he saw his caravan arriving with the night. As he descended the hill, a vengeance came upon him, and he thought in his spleen, "How can I go in silence from my prison? Not without a moment's thunder can my anger leave this place. Long were the nights of solitude that I have spent in its streets, and longer still were the days of bitter poverty. Am I so weak as to part from my prison without a single incantation?"
I think if you're gay, there's always the thought at the back of your mind somewhere that you're a misfit, that you don't really belong anywhere, that you're at the edges of society, no matter how accommodating or society becomes, that you'd like to join in, but really at the end of the day you won't be allowed to. So Caliban became really the emblem of my sexuality. I mean, lots of people who read my book, and some very learned people who read my book, made the mistake of thinking Caliban was my dark side, or Caliban represented all the things I would not say. I wasn't really offended at that. I just thought that was slightly blinkered of them, and some people had known me for years. But I don't know, Caliban represented to me the sort of person, the character, who will do anything to be accepted, but at the end of the day realises that there's a cut-off point. There's a point at which in our present social order that will not be allowed. And so I warmed to him, I suppose he warmed to me. And he became definitely a huge part of my alter ego and a source of inspiration.
Well, Aristophanes, what are you writing? No, it's a tiny little play, and it's based on another idea that we've had.
Don't tell me the diary of a gay boy.
No.
No, you see, I think we need to be emancipated, we need to be free.
I don't understand this. Where you
Free
feel,
at last,
where
free
you
at
feel,
last.
Where you feel
Praise
so
God
downtrodden. I don't understand.
No, it's the principle. It's the principle. Why should I even have to react this way? This is the 21st century, a millennium of freedom and intelligence and knowledge. Why should I even be thinking that I couldn't get married in that church? Why not?
Well, we know why. We know the history and all that stuff, and we know that it's moving forwards and it's advancing. But I can't
why are we
understand.
as free as Scandinavian country?
I think we are. I think we're not though. I think we are. And I think that a lot of this is our own repression, isn't it?
You're repressed.
No.
No, you're quite bloody right, you're not repressed. God, if you're repressed, I'm repressed.
No, but in the sense of, we inhibit ourselves. We stop ourselves.
You inhibit yourself, do you?
Well, sometimes.
When was that?
What am I trying to say? That, and this is
what you're trying to say.
What I'm trying to say.
I spent all this money on those sunglasses.
You don't like my sunglasses,
I
do you?
your sunglasses.
No, you don't. You've been on about my
sunglasses.
sunglasses.
Yeah, I
you don't like my sunglasses. No. Is it Canada? Do you hate Canadians?
No, I think they're more like us than the Americans because of the French influence. I think we've got to pull away from the American influence. I mean, you know what I'm like about the commodification of the gay experience. You know, I mean, this is the perfect example of that. There's a way you look gay and be gay and act gay, and I think we've betrayed ourselves. We've betrayed our cultural understanding of what it means to be gay. It's never been really big news here, but it's big news over there because they're Puritans. And you know, the way you act, the way you think, and I just think it's reducing everything to the level of salesmanship, and I'm against it. I hate it. I think it's trivialising and trivial.
You had a group in society, a minority, that was under pressure, and what it's done is it's innovated and it's changed and it's moved and it's moulded, and it's come up with an approach. Now, what's interesting is history repeats itself. You talk about it being Americanization. It's not Americanization. It was happening in ancient Greece 2,000 odd years ago.
But looking like this and acting like this and sounding like this wasn't. You see, I think in those days it was just a part of life. Yeah. I think it became an issue later, and I blame the church. I blame the church for lots of things, as you know, but I blame the church for this, because all of a sudden it became an issue when the Puritans started getting control of things, and therefore we became a repressed minority, not simply a minority. And our way of rebelling, obviously because of Stonewall and American social movements, that gave us the impetus to be less afraid. But I think it's now gone completely in the wrong direction. That is, lots of people don't think I'm gay. Yet lots of people think, my God, he can't be because I don't wear bizarre white suits and I'm not coming out of a pool with my knickers around my ankle. My trouble with the gay experience at the moment is lots of people believe this. They don't think it's fun. They don't think it's just a way of garnering freedom. They think that's the way you are gay. That's my worry.
I don't think that. I don't think that's the case. I think they subscribe to this because they like it. They want to be part of that. They sign up to that. Well, they sign up to that. I mean, you know, that is, we've talked about that's in a sense one of the problems in our society at the moment, which is very affluent, is you've got too many choices, and they make that choice, I think.
What you mean is, you are so rich these days, you can choose to do whatever you want to, and I hate you,
I tell you, you go to Naples, there's
Naples.
Pastium.
Naples, not Britain, Naples.
No, and that there are paintings of something not dissimilar to that. You know,
I'm not moaning about that. I'm not moaning about that.
And it is that that whole way of viewing male form and what the idea.
And we need a healthy eroticism in our culture. I think that's been missing for centuries. What I'm against is the American tint that's being given to that eroticized culture. I'm really against it. This is, you know, we're all in California, we're all on the beach, we all go to champagne-soaked parties, and we've all got no thoughts, and we're all controllable, because who gives a shit, really, as long as you're voting Republican? No, I hate it.
No, I don't think that's the way. And most of those gay men wouldn't be voting Republican anyway. You're just looking at these magazines and thinking,
how dare you suggest I
just
look at those
looking
magazines?
At the pretty boys, right?
But
you know, for instance, like Gay Times, which is a volume every month. Yeah, but you know, a quarter of the staff
trivia written for trivial people.
It's not
trivial
just
people
trivia.
with too much money and time on their
You'll
hands.
find philosophical stuff.
Right, name one philosophical thing I'd find anywhere in all
Well,
of
I don't read them that regularly, so I can't come up.
That's the oldest trick in the book. I don't read them myself.
Let's see, is there something
God, now Michael Price looking for philosophy and attitude.
Don't be horrible.
Oh, shush.
There is.
There is.
Oh, let's have a look at this. A review of books.
What sort of books? Gay trash? Or who's going out with who books?
No.
My God, I need a new boyfriend! Exclamation mark. Read all about it. 320 pages.
Well, there's a whole review.
Oh, right, there's another. There we are. Right.
Lord of the Rings.
Oh, God.
Into the Woods. Angels in America. Oh, it is the usual things, I'm afraid. Well,
serious reviews called Lord of the Rings. I knew him once.
I think you're being unfair. They know.
I rest my case, my lad.
Yes,
I rest my case.
It's not the only magazine out there, and
Look at one of these book reviews. Look at that fat bastard for a start. I'm not gay. I'm eating an ice cream in mid-cat.
You have just
Look
done.
at that.
You have just done exactly what you've accused the book of doing.
So this is the level of gay literature in the 21st century.
Oh look, you know that's sort of.
All right, you might like that. That's me in a Welsh rugby shirt because I'd never wear an English one. So.
Oh, that's very nice.
That's very well.
Yeah.
And it goes nicely with the green background.
Yeah, that's great. That's very great.
We'd taken a trip to Kitzbühel in Austria. The first time I went away with Matthew, and that was me getting incredibly drunk on schnapps, which was rather jolly. I don't think Matthew had had much schnapps before then, I don't know. This is me trying to tell him I'm not an actor on the ferry, because we decided to get the ferry. Well, in those days I didn't know I was gay, and he didn't know whatever he was. And we were sort of going to explore all sorts of things, like what we were to each other and where we stood.
How old you were?
As I say, I really have to think about it. Not really. The memories are quite painful, to be honest with you, because I thought my life was over when we split up.
And now, what do you think?
Oh gosh, never think your life is over. That's what I think. I've met someone even more wonderful, so I'm quite happy, really. That's how I remember him before he got very ill. He was a very different person before he got ill.
Why? In which way was different?
Oh, he was happy and relaxed and a really lovely human being, but he got testicular cancer and they had to remove one of his testicles, and then he changed quite a lot. He had intensive chemotherapy and all of his hair came out. He was ill for a long time. Obviously, when someone you love gets ill, they're more important than anything else. So I sacrificed a lot of my own potentials in the world of academia to make sure he was okay, and effectively nursed him back to health. About 5 years, I think, for his illness. So yes, I think I gave up a lot of things. Not that I regret that. You know, you don't years later think, oh, if only I hadn't done that. That was the situation I was in, and that was the correct decision to make. Maybe I wouldn't make it now with hindsight, but you can't say, you know, at the time you don't know where the future's going. So yes, I feel I'd be in a very different position to the one I'm in at the moment. Not that I feel rancorous about that either. It's just the way things worked out. Unfortunately, I feel these days I have no feelings about him at all, which for me is a defeat. I think that's something of a failure on a spiritual and emotional level. But that is how I feel. I mean, I was so hurt by his departure that I don't really have feelings about him at all anymore now. I hope he's okay, but that's about it.
Were you very in love with him?
Yeah.
Very...
Well, I thought I was. I learned a couple of things. I don't know, it's the sort of tender and compassionate devotion to somebody else and their needs and to them as a person. When they're more important than you as a person, then you know you're in love, because I don't believe it otherwise.
Have you got any picture with your degree?
You're such a ponce. Of course I don't. Oh look, there's me with a degree. Fuck off.
Wow.
Oh heavens above. That's so Italian.
Oh, come on.
Mum, look, I've done something. God's sake, man. Mother, I've got a degree. Take pictures of me now.
What's this?
But my master's degree, and that my mother took it, so it's nothing to do with me, okay?
Right, it's your master, okay.
In his epilogue to The Tempest, Shakespeare begs his audience through Prospero's mouth to set him free from the enchanted island of theatre. He tells us that, as a poet, his own strength is faint, and that he is imprisoned until our applause releases him back to his earthly life. But this asks the unthinkable. Prospero is much more interesting as a Renaissance magus than as the Duke of Milan, just as Shakespeare the Bard has an existence that exalts the career of a mere English author. Therefore we will never let him leave the island of sorcery or the stage of genius.
I don't believe gay people are blind to other genders. I think that's a heterosexual myth. I'm teased sometimes by very, very, very close friends. Oh, what would you know about it? Well, I can see feminine beauty, and my second oldest friend's a girl, and I was born, my mother's a woman. Therefore, you know, gay people don't drop out the sky or climb out of the earth. Miranda, in the play, represented so many things to me. She's obviously a much more capable human being than Ferdinand, the romantic suitor. She's the one that says at the end of the play, when she's confronted with so many new faces, "Oh, brave new world." I find it easier, I suppose, as someone who'd identify as being a pagan, to see God as woman, to see God, the divine, the transcendent, through female metaphors. I find that a lot easier. You know, the fecund universe, the creative, the fertile ground of being. I find that personally easy to understand. Therefore, Miranda for me was female sexuality, but she was also a certain mystery that I couldn't ever approach. I hope I gave beauty to those words. I suppose I'm still reticent about the fact I've written anything beautiful. I really want to, but I'm not sure at this stage I have. Other people tell me I have, so I'm hoping there's some truth to that. But that was one of the times I came close to it, and that was my first true poem. It wasn't simply the jumble of words, that was an actual poem.
I love you, Holy Virgin, with the soul that you have moulded, lovely as a rosebud to the silver moon unfolded. I love you, Holy Virgin. I love you, Queen of Heaven, with the body you have fashioned, twisted in your service by sacred sighs of divine passion. I love you, Queen of Heaven. I love you, aged Mother, with the mind that you have hardened, deep as dark obsidian, reflecting black thoughts yet unpardoned. I love you, aged Mother. I love you, I praise you, I abase myself before you, and with golden songs adore you, my holy hall of heaven.
I went to the launch of Poetry London's new list. That's meant to be a magazine that is simply worthy of respect for what it is. I do not respect it. I went to a launch of their recent list recently and found the whole thing so amateurish and bumbling. I could only leave during the break thinking, my heavens, is that really what poetry's been reduced to? Why I think I should be read by everybody else, it's vulgar and pointless. And if that really is the state of modern poetry, then I can understand why it has such a low reputation amongst the general population. My contention is that is not poetry. Poetry is a radical subjective exploration of the very frontiers of the human condition. Certainly modern philosophers would be on my side. People like Martin Heidegger, who nearly makes a religion out of poetry, would be on my side and not theirs. Therefore, no, do I expect to make any money out of this? Sadly, no. Would it be nice? Obviously, yes. But that isn't the main thrust of my ambitions. I'm writing poetry in the way that I breathe, or that I laugh, or that I eat. It's something I have to do. It's something that makes me David. Dante, at the end of the Divine Comedy, he's been through all the circles of hell. He's been down the leg of the evil spirit himself and climbed up the other side into the terraces of purgatory. He's floated into the stars where Beatrice and Christ are waiting for him. And the last couple of lines to this day are the ultimate prayer for me. Dante looks down the great ray of creation from the starry firmament where he's now floating with the blessed, with the glorious spirits, and says something along the lines that my high-raised fantasy is now ended, and like a wheel which ever moves but never jars, my will and wish is now by love impelled, that love which moves the sun and all the stars. Therefore, what's the religion of a poet? Love. Love is the ultimate and only human experience that transcends human experience, and the only way we can really experience that, appreciate that, is through words. Therefore, poetry is the religion of life.